Welcome to Insights in Business, coming to you from the Tidemark Theatre in the city of Campbell River. I'm Mary Ruth Snyder, the Executive Director of the Campbell River and District Chamber of Commerce. My very special guest today is Mr. Dean Parsonage of 50 North Adventures and is a marine tour operator. Welcome, Dean.
Thank you very much for having me, Mary Ruth.
It has been an extraordinary season. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about you. Where do you hail from? Which continent have you arrived from?
Well, I come from that little country way down the bottom called Australia. It's was my home. Campbell River's my home now, but yeah, originally born and bred Australia.
All right. And how old were you when you came to Canada?
Oh, that's personal now. Well, I'm 52 now, and I moved here 5 years ago.
Okay. And what has that move been like for you?
Challenging. It hasn't been all beer and pizza, but it's been exciting at the same time. It was, for me, in one sense, it was fairly easy because I was used to making decisions and changing my life on a regular basis. So that side of it was okay. I think the toughest part has really just been sort of settling in and really getting involved in a small community.
Mm-hmm. What community did you come from in Australia?
Well, originally bred in Melbourne, big city, and then I finished off in Australia in far north Queensland, Cairns, up on the Great Barrier Reef. So I kind of call Cairns home because that's where my heart is, was Cairns.
How big is that?
Cairns, probably, in all honesty, it's not far off the size of Campbell River.
Oh, okay.
But in saying that, they put 2.5 million to 3 million people a year through Cairns because it's the gateway to the Great Barrier Reef. So it's mainstream tourism.
What was the condition of the reef when you left?
Look, I'd seen the reef. I was really spoiled. I spent 10 years there as a diving instructor. So I had a pretty cool office, which was obviously the Great Barrier Reef. Look, I saw it change at different times for different reasons. From the crown of thorns starfish went through and they destroyed coral. There was a lot of sediment and silt issues, especially with farming. And then I got to visit again a number of times after I left Australia. So I think the reef's in pretty good shape.
Okay. Now, what was the transition like for you from Australia to Canada? Before we started the show, you were talking about your accent. And if you don't mind sharing that story about your accent.
Well, yeah, I guess working in tourism for so many years, dealing with different nationalities from around the world, especially in Cairns, it was normal. Everybody sort of loved to hear the Australian accent. But then I spent another 10 years travelling around the world working in the super yacht industry, and that's probably where I discovered the accent a little bit painful. A lot of people not quite understanding how we speak. We do tend to bastardise the English language. Is pretty much the Australian way. We put our own spin on everything. And then moving to Canada, I found that I had to really slow everything down, pronounce words the correct way, think about how I speak, because a lot of people just don't necessarily understand us. So a little bit challenging, but that's not the biggest challenge.
So what would you say has been your biggest challenge as an owner-operator in the business world in Canada so far, before COVID?
Probably the biggest challenge is that my background being mainstream, full-on tourism, and then, part of the attraction and moving here and part of our decisions to move to Campbell River was we could see Campbell River, and I'm going back 13 years, 14 years now, when I first discovered Campbell River, I looked at it and went, how's this place not been discovered? So for me, it's like, Campbell River's transitioning. I understand the history of Campbell River. It's transitioning through tourism, and it's like, tourism, whereas I'm like, get out of bed, let's go. So it's that's been hard because I get a little bit impatient with that. I like to let's get into it because of what it's got. So I've got to pull the reins back a little bit.
With all of your world travels, what do you think that makes Campbell River so unique?
It's diversity.
Okay.
It's so diverse. What Campbell River honestly, I mean, you know, it's called a gateway town and it's called the salmon capital and it's had all these different names, but really when you look at it from the outside, you know, looking in, and even from the inside looking out, what is available on the front door of this town? There's not too many places in the world like it. You know, people say, but you know, Australia's beautiful. I say, yes, Australia is beautiful, and yes, it's extremely diverse and it offers a lot of things, and so does New Zealand. But when you look at, you know, this little town, it's just appeared amongst it all. You know, the diversity is second to nowhere. That's what attracted me straight away. From the Discovery Islands, Desolation Sound, the fishing, the hiking, everything is on our doorstep. Within, seriously, 40 minutes of Campbell River, you could be in, you know, you'll feel like you're in the South Island of New Zealand, or you'll feel as though you're in the heart of Alaska in the wilderness. You know, it's all on offer. It's extremely diverse.
Okay. When you were first thinking about immigrating and coming to Campbell River, was Campbell River your first choice when coming to Canada?
100%.
Okay.
It was my only choice.
Oh, really?
I would not have come to I would not have moved to Canada if my wife didn't agree to come to Vancouver Island and live in Campbell River.
Okay.
So
now, where is she from?
She's from Ontario originally.
Okay.
And then she was in Vancouver. She moved around a bit through her studies. And then we met in Seattle. Crazy story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, when you first arrived and you started to set up your business, from a business point of view, again, pre-global pandemic, what were some of the initial challenges that you came up against as a business owner?
For me personally, I think most of it was understanding the difference in rules, regulations, standards, codes, how systems worked. That was challenging. That was really challenging. You know, different countries, different rules, right? You'd think, you know, countries are quite similar, but in the same breath, they're not as similar as you would think. So there was a few things like that that I obviously didn't pay enough attention to before we moved here. A lot of different things, but it was mostly the system itself, you know, Transport Canada, things like that I found extremely difficult to navigate through, but we got there.
Okay, so like a lot of red tape, is that kind of what you're...
Well, it's not so much the red tape side, it's just the definition of things and understanding. A lot of these, I found a lot of the bodies didn't quite understand that they were all united and affiliated.
Right.
So that made things extremely difficult. And then, you know, navigating yourself through some of the government sites, especially the websites, is, I'm glad I married a psychologist.
All right. So we're going to take a short break, but we'll be right back. You're watching Insights in Business, coming to you from the Tidemark Theatre. My guest today is Mr. Dean Parsonage. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching Insights in Business, coming to you from the Tidemark Theatre. I'm Mary Ruth Snyder. Joining me today is Mr. Dean Parsonage. Now, Dean, you're one of the local marine tour operators here in Campbell River. There are many, many, many. And what was it like 5 years ago when you first arrived and you started to set up your business?
That's a very good question. 5 years ago when I got here, I made an effort and went door to door to meet all the so-called competition. I don't really look at everybody as competition. Business is business. You're just a part of it. So I went door to door, introduced myself, and that was a 18-month hustle. all by itself.
Right.
It was a little bit, some of the operators worked together, but really it was just about every man for himself. And I wasn't used to that sort of a thing. So, yeah, it took a while, but we all kind of work really well together now. Not saying it was me that did that, but I think it's sort of, it needed someone to...
Fresh.
Yeah, a different set of eyes, I guess,
Perspective.
on that one. So it was a little bit tough, because we're diverse. We work in the fishing sector, also the whale watching sector, in adventure tourism. So I get to fish in different ponds, so to speak. Yeah, it was challenging, that's for sure, for the first year and a half.
And when did you see the shift start to occur where there was more of a collaborative sense?
Yeah, I think that sort of was probably 4 years ago. I think when really, I think Campbell River didn't have, we definitely didn't have a destination marketing authority at the time. So I think Campbell River was in limbo, so to speak. And then, yeah, I think it just took a few people, to really come together and vouch for Campbell River. It was that period 4 years ago when everyone sort of saw it and sort of agreed that it's not about the individual, it's about Campbell River.
The whole.
Yeah.
Now, in the last 2 years leading up to the pandemic, how would you describe the tourism market for Campbell River?
The market's been, 2 years ago, the market was good but slow. No one really knows where Campbell River is. That's what I was really surprised about. I discovered the place on a boat heading to Alaska. And I'm like, how does nobody know about this place? And then we started and we do trade shows, and I noticed even the Vancouver market, everyone says, yeah, I've been to the island, I've been to Victoria, and I've been to Tofino, which is like, okay, I've been there too, but...
And we're not like either one of those places.
No, it's very different. And it was a hard sell.
Yeah.
A really hard sell. So, we do other provinces as well for trade shows, and it's an easier sell out of province. So it's been slow. There's the marine sector really is loud in regards to marketing and advertising for Campbell River on an international level and a domestic level. Right. Without a doubt.
And take last year's, not this previous year, but 2019 season, how would you describe the season overall in terms of people coming into Campbell River?
Oh, look, 2019 was good. Do you remember, we go back, was it 2 years ago? A lot of people came here because of the fires through the interior. So Campbell River kind of, in all honesty, picked up, I would say, a lot of tourism by chance.
Right.
And, we picked up a lot because of the fires. People's plans changed. And to be honest, once people are here, they're blown away. Campbell River's an easy sell once you're here. Yeah. And then I think we've done very similar this year as well.
Okay. So even with the pandemic, in the early days, like April, May, June, in those 3 months, everybody was still pretty much on lockdown. They were still saying no interprovincial travel, stay at home, travel like within your own community, don't even go to the next community over. When did you start to see a bit of a pickup in the tourist sector here in Campbell River?
Well, for us, it was probably July.
Okay.
We wrote the season off. I wrote the season off. Again, I'm glad I married a psychologist because I had my moment, and then it was like, all right, you got to look at the positives. Yeah. We need to refocus. Yeah. You're in it as part of the world. And I remember talking to another operator from Campbell River Whale Watching, and this is what's nice about the Marine Division is we all talk. Yeah. And I remember Tyler saying to me from Campbell River Whale Watch, he said, at least one good thing is it's not through business decisions that we're struggling. Yeah. That there's a problem or this is happening. So you still ticked all the right boxes. Yes. And it's nice to hear that from someone else as just sort of reinforcement that it isn't your fault. Right. So then we noticed a significant change was July. Okay. Coming into that early part of July.
People flooded in all of a sudden?
Yeah, well, the phone started ringing and emails started coming in.
Oh, okay.
Prior to that, the only emails we were getting was cancellations. And that's not just myself, that's the industry.
Yeah, the industry.
Across the board. And
Yeah.
everybody was feeling that and panicking and...
Well, I had a similar conversation with a couple of the hotel operators in town, and they also said they all of a sudden they noticed a bit of a turnaround in July, and it was quite surprising because all of a sudden it literally was nobody, and then it was everybody, and that continued right through till well into September. Is the marine industry seeing that carry through to September, now October, or is it pretty much stopped for the season?
Oh, the light switch has been flicked, 100%. So we saw it, we saw the influx come in about that time. And look, I think everybody does different things. I think for us especially, it was a little bit, we're kind of a unique setup. We specialise in small groups, so it's different. We pivoted and went, all right, we need to change some marketing strategy, even though, you know, all our marketing's generally done January, February, March.
Right.
You know, so that money's spent. But so we changed a few things, and yeah, we targeted the Lower Mainland and Vancouver, which has always been a difficult market, has been the Vancouver market. And we got lucky. The model suited what everybody was looking for. We had an incredible, I'm talking incredible, finish to July and an amazing August. And I'd love to thank anyone in Vancouver and the Lower Mainland for coming to Campbell River, because it's helped the majority of us.
Well, I think we need to also thank Bonnie Henry, because she's the one that kept driving home the point: travel within your home province. And I think that consistent messaging from the public health officer really drove home that point. And so people from the interior were coming here, people from the Lower Mainland were coming, and people from here were going to the interior, where other years they might have gone south, right, to Oregon or Washington State or California. So traveling interprovincially, like in our province and a few Albertans, I think that message really got through and stuck, and people were so tired of being in their homes, cramped up. They were just dying for a road trip.
Yeah, it's a combination. There's a whole combination of stuff. I mean, we saw, you know, normally we get a lot of traffic from out of province, had very little, obviously no international, but yeah, that's definitely part of it. It was good to see people actually explore beyond the norm, which the norm for the island is Victoria and Tofino. So it was really good, and the feedback, I mean, the majority of our clientele was Vancouver. Okay. 100%. It was incredible. And to hear people say that we've done the island before, but we decided to see more of the island.
Yes.
And then discover Campbell River, it's like...
We'll be back.
Unbelievable. It was just incredible to hear that, people just blown away. Yeah. With Campbell River. You know, they look at it and go, oh, hang on, we could spend a week here. Why haven't we been here before? We could do 2 weeks based in Campbell River. And I'm
Absolutely.
Like, hello.
All right, we're going to take a short break. You are watching Insights in Business, coming to you from the Tidemark Theatre. We'll be right back with Mr. Dean Parsonage.
It took a few tries. It probably took, an hour of just getting the feel for it.
To experience someone who struggles to do anything, but is so determined, and he has absolutely no fear.
There's so much craziness in this world that you have to do what floats your boat.
Welcome back to Insights in Business. Our guest today is Mr. Dean Parsonage. Now, Dean, we've talked about how successful the summer actually turned out to be for the marine operators and for tourism in general in the Campbell River and District area. Now, let's look ahead to next spring. Now, I know that nobody has a crystal ball, We are faced with the US election coming up on November 3rd. Nobody's really clear how that's going to turn out. Of course, we've got different cities that have been declared anarchy cities, and it's really unsettling. And the border's closed, and assuming it will stay closed for some time. But looking ahead to spring 2021, we will probably have been through phase 2, maybe even phase 3 of the global pandemic. Coming out of that, what did you learn this year that is going to inform your decisions next spring?
Well, our decisions have already been made. So we're already planning 2 years ahead.
Okay.
Everyone has their opinions and guesses, and no one's got that crystal ball. But
Yeah.
for me, it's 2 years planning. I cannot see things changing for the next 2 years for obvious reasons. Airlines aren't going to, international planes are not going to be up and running, I don't believe, this time next year.
Well, and they've said that themselves, that, you know, there are still some international flights, but Air Canada is down, I believe, 90% from this
so
time
the
last
domino
year.
effect's there for quite some time. So
Right.
for us, especially in a small town, little community, we're seasonal. Yes, we had a good end to the summer, but we lost a big chunk of the season as well.
Okay.
So for me, and probably for a bunch of other operators and businesses, let's see where we are at the end of a winter. Did you
Okay.
make enough to get you through the winter? So we can't lose sight of that for these little communities
Right.
and businesses. Who survives the winter?
Right.
The next phases. Planning ahead, moving forward, I'm planning it's going to be exactly the same as what we had this year, except I think we're going to see more domestic travel. We
Right.
will get a little bit more, I think, out of province. So instead of seeing people turning up in July, I think everybody will have a better understanding of where things are at into the new year,
Yeah.
and then plans will then happen for earlier, for June.
Yeah, even May, maybe.
Even May, I mean,
Long
and
weekend.
true, I mean, a lot of it too for the marine sector is what happens with the fishing regulations,
Right.
which is another show, I guess, another day.
That's-
But these are also part of the issues that,
Yes.
that operators have to try and
Right.
plan for. So it's very difficult planning that side of things, but no, we're planning basically the same as what we had this year.
Just moving it a little bit earlier, maybe, and with the marketing
Well, we're hoping
going
that
after
people
the
will
lower
come
mainland.
in June
Yeah.
instead of leaving it until the end of July. The
Right.
difference, I think, moving forward is that we won't be in lockdown for 3 months heading into the unknown. Now we've got a little bit of an understanding of,
Yep, how it
of
works.
how this is sort of
Yep,
working.
6
so
feet apart.
different
which we are.
navigation, yeah.
Yeah. Now, how did the marine operators build that into their day-to-day operations, keeping people apart or wearing masks or the social distancing aspect? It's a little
Well, it
tough
ended
on a
up being
boat.
quite easy. It was difficult at first. I mean, every sector went through, you
Yes.
know, the whole policy creation, dealing with the Public Health Authority. I mean, you remember the tourism sector was one of the last ones to even get a chance to present.
Yep.
Hence, part of that being a very late start to the season. On the whale watching side of things, I mean, I can speak for both sides, I guess, the fishing and the whale watching. We all had to unite, so that was one positive that came out of a lot more people came together and shared virtual hugs and, you know, dealing with moving forward. But as the whale watching sector for BC as a whole, we came up with a neck buff idea. Because you can't social distance on a boat with 6 people. It's extremely difficult. So there was some confusion there with Transport Canada and other things, but eventually we were able to operate. Everybody had to wear a mask, clean your boats, the protocols, the whole lot. For us, it was pretty simple. We advertised that we weren't doing any mixed groups of people. It was only family groups or groups as a group. So there weren't individual mixes. And that worked very well for our model. Doesn't necessarily work for bigger boats with bigger numbers of people. But the marine sector across the board, I think, did a pretty good job.
And there's good news that has come out of Victoria. There is money coming for the tourism sector. It's part of the it is part of the provincial recovery, economic recovery plan, and there's a substantial amount of money that's being fed right into the tourism sector. There is also money that's going to be coming from the feds. In addition to the wage subsidy has now been extended through to next summer, which is going to help some in the marine sector that have staff that they have to take care of. So with all of those pieces coming into play, will the marketing that you do in January, February, March, April, it'll be targeted mostly again to the Lower Mainland or throughout BC, maybe Calgary, Edmonton?
Yeah, it's tricky. We go through that right now. So, I mean, technically the season's just about finished.
Yep.
A normal year, we would be gearing up for trade shows in Alberta, Ontario, and potentially Vancouver.
But no trade shows? Or virtual? Are there going to be virtual trade shows?
We don't know. I
Okay.
mean, we're in talks right now.
Yep.
These trade shows come up they start in February.
Right.
So
Stay tuned.
yeah, but I mean, it's still a cost, right? You still have
Right.
to pay that money,
Yeah.
book it, airlines. I mean, we've still got shows we couldn't attend this year that are still on hold. So
Right.
it's a juggle. To be honest, where am I spending the money right now? I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm probably just going to aim at sit it out until December.
Okay.
Leave it a little bit longer. Yeah, I'm not sure. It's a tricky one.
Okay.
Normally we do a lot of domestic marketing, but I think most of the money right now, in all honesty, is being put back into the business in regards to making sure our website stands where it needs to stand, and
Right.
which is where we pick up the majority of
Right.
our business. So I think a lot more businesses are probably tidying up certain areas within rather than spend a lot of money in other areas.
And that dovetails into ensuring that your digital marketing footprint is where it needs to be, say, start January 1.
Well, basically now.
Okay.
We're pretty well, like the way I operate is we're ready to launch come January 1. We've already
Right.
we're up and ready to go to be
Okay.
to be operating in May.
Okay.
You know, the whales turn up in May, so we're sort of standing by to stand by. So yeah, we need to have those ducks in a row pretty early.
Okay. Great. Well, if you can believe it, our time is up. It does go very, very quickly.
It does.
Very quickly, 30 seconds, what advice do you have for anybody out there considering how to spend their disposable income to support the local companies?
Support everything local.
Okay.
And I'm going to say it, don't drink coffee at Tim Hortons or Starbucks. Go to the cafes.
Right.
Try them out, support them. Support everything like that, the small operators, the ma and pas. Support them. They need it. They're the ones, I mean, everyone's got kids. Kids still need to go to dance. It's that domino effect.
Mm-hmm.
You know, support everything you can local
Okay.
in that sense.
Great. Thank you again for your time today,
Thanks for having
Dean.
me.
Really appreciate your insight and your expertise in this field. And I know that our audience will have enjoyed the peek behind the curtain at what goes on.
Hope they could understand the accent.
There you go. You have been watching Insights in Business, coming to you from the Tidemark Theatre in the city of Campbell River. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again.